Well, good morning, everybody. Grace and peace to you from our Lord Jesus Christ and all the saints here in sunny, windy Central California. Sorry about the video quality. It's a little bright over there. I get it. It's just, it's a beautiful day and I want the garage door open. So there you go. And I do these in one take, which you guys have probably noticed. So if the garage door suddenly opens up and my wife's car pulls in, that's what happens. So I'm going to try to talk fast. So I'm just going to talk about the issue of the week we had. So I remember, well, a week or two ago, we had a major outage with Spanning Tree, broadcast storms caused by a loop on a switch, we believe. Something happened this week that tends to put a little more credence in that. So what happened a week or two ago was that we had a 2-switch stack connected by a stacking cable. That stacking cable failed. Now we had a switch that 2-switch stack where both switches thought they were the master switch. Both tried to take over. Our core interpreted that as a loop, and it didn't quite know what to do about that. But it happened again this week, and let me show you how it's configured. Let me share my screen real quick, and I'm just going to share this cheesy drawing that I made. So here's like a typical closet switch in our main hospital. We've got, a stack of switches made up of usually 4 edge switches, and they are, sorry, there's a gnat bothering me here. They are connected via lags to our core switches. So one of those lags will go to this switch, another lag will go to this switch. What happened was I happened to go to this closet for some other unrelated reason, and I happened to notice that, oh, I know why, because I was doing an inventory of all the switches. When we stack these switches, the topology should show up, the stacking topology should be a ring, which means just as you see here, this switch is connected to the next switch, this switch is connected to the next switch, this switch is connected to the next switch, and the last switch connects back around to the first switch. That creates a ring. But when I checked the stacking topology on this switch, it said it was a daisy chain, which just means they're all connected to each other with no redundant connection going back up to the top. So I went out to the closet to investigate, and sure enough, I looked at there's LED statuses for each one of these stacking cables. And the LED port for this stacking cable and the LED for this stacking cable port was showing that it wasn't present. So effectively, the situation that we had was kind of like this. Whoops, what am I doing? Come on, give me an eraser. There you go. Basically like this. This cable was broken. So I went out there to replace the stacking cable. So what I did, put that back. What I did is I came out and I disconnected this end right here, just pulled the cable. Well, immediately, this switch up here rebooted. That's the master, as it says right there, master switch. I know it rebooted because I had my laptop consoled into it. So I'm like, huh, that's weird. So that was the master. This switch here was no longer the backup, it became the master. And then this switch here was no longer a standby, it became the backup. And then this one was a standby. It's like, okay, well, I don't know why that rebooted, but I'm gonna let it go ahead and reboot. And I went ahead and I just finished replacing the cable. So I pulled off the other end, got a fresh cable, plugged it back in, and just kind of waited to see what would happen. So it finished rebooting. This guy came back up as a standby. This was the master, this was a backup. And thought, okay, well, everything came back up though. The switch, I mean, I could ping my core, I could ping Google, everything looked good. So I said, all right, I'm just gonna ignore it for now and just going back to my desk and relax. So I got back to my desk. And then I checked Intermapper, which is my network monitoring tool, and it showed that these two switches had ports down. And it also showed that this switch, this is logically one switch here, also had ports down. So I dug in a little deeper, and basically what had happened was, get this thing here. This port became disabled. Which other one was it? This port became disabled, and this port became disabled. The only port left was this one. So I looked in there, there's a command, show interface gigabit state, and then you put the port numbers. So I put the port numbers on those three switches. Show interface gigabit state, and it showed me that they were administratively up, operationally down, and it puts a reason code on there, which is nice. And the reason code was due to SLPP, simple link prevention, or I'm sorry, simple, yeah, it was preventing the link, simple loop prevention protocol. So the core switches detected a loop and did what they're supposed to do and disabled the ports. So what I'm thinking happened was this guy right here, this was the master. When this guy right here rebooted, it thought it was a master. So briefly, the core detected two master switches again, each with, this is my IP address. So it saw duplicate paths to a switch with a given IP address. Said, up, we've got a loop, and it disabled all the ports. Now, once the switch finished coming up, it knew it wasn't the master because it, over the stacking cables, it detected there was already a master. So it selected a new role for itself, and then this switch here continued being the master. So that's why everything was fine, at least from the networking end. And that's why these ports are still disabled, because they don't come back. I mean, once they get disabled, they stay disabled. You have to go back and manually re-enable them when the coast is clear. So anyway, that just shed some light on the issue we had last week. That yes, when that stacking cable failed, whatever failure mode it experienced, that it caused and it was the legacy core. It wasn't this was the new core here on this problem this week. That was our new core's loop prevention is all set up. Now on our old legacy core, it doesn't have loop prevention. It's got spanning tree, but yeah, it didn't work. So it's not configured correctly, apparently. I didn't configure that switch, and I try not to touch it if I don't have to. So Extreme's looking into the old core to try and make sure there's things we can do to make sure this doesn't happen again. I provided all the data from this latest failure that's given them a lot of great info to go by to figure out what happened on the previous failure. So I'm just going to continue following their advice, which is to make sure all these switches are set up in a ring, which is what I did on this one, and to upgrade to the latest firmware, which prevents some HAL crashes in certain cases. I think like in the, I believe they said in the case of a stacking cable malfunction, it can cause a HAL failure. That's what they think might have happened on the other switch. So I'm upgrading to the latest firmware. And in fact, on this one, that night after this failure, I went ahead and scheduled a firmware upgrade, which is really cool with Extreme. You can schedule them and just forget about it because they just work. Scheduled firmware, it rebooted, and when it came back up, it was in the normal configuration. This top switch was a master, second switch was a backup. The other two were standbys, and it was in a ring topology. So everything was like back to normal. So anyway, that was my issue of the week, and always a fun place. I was the only one there this week, so I mean, I was just really hopping, trying to cover for my boss in her meetings and take care of all the daily network demands of, hey, can you activate this port? Hey, we need an IP address, that kind of stuff. Just the piddly little things you got to do as a network admin. And provide all this info, because Extreme is still asking for tons of info. So, I mean, this was a really busy week for me, being the only one there, providing lots of info, providing support to the hospital, and trying to update all these switches. So Yeah, all the switches that are connected to my legacy core, all these newer XS switches, I have to make sure that this is done. So yeah, that's what was going on this week. So hope you found that interesting or informative, or at the very least entertaining. Everybody that's subscribed and watches religiously every week, I really appreciate it. You guys that try to provide thoughtful solutions, that's very appreciated as well, because I don't pretend to be a know-it-all. I know very little. Like I said, I am not trained in networking. I am self-taught. I learned on the street, basically, on the job. So I started out in help desk, just like a lot of you guys are in help desk. Just keep at it, keep bugging your network admins to, can I come along? Can you teach me something? And that's basically how I did it. So keep on going. So yeah, I'll wrap that up. That's long enough. So everybody have a blessed week. Hit the subscribe button if you like, the notification bell if you want to know when more of these rambling dialogues show up. And we'll catch you all next time. Where's my thing? All right. God bless everybody.